Now, global business leaders have gathered for the two-day B20 Summit, focusing on key priorities from financing the just energy transition to advancing inclusive growth for a changing world. The B20, taking place in Sandton, is also a key platform that feeds into the G20 process. And one of the recommendations from the B20 report is, of course, the need for a fair and inclusive global energy transition. For more, let's take you to Sandton now. That's where SABC News economics editor Tshepo Mongoai is. So Tshepo, good morning to you once again. And of course, talking to what's to be expected. And earlier I was touching on the fact that whilst the U.S. administration is not here, there are businesses that are and have been participating actively in the business track of the B20.
Thank you very much, Sakina, and welcome back to the Morning Live viewers here at the Sandton Convention Center, where we are in the last day of the B20 Summit. It started yesterday, of course, bringing in together corporates from right around the world discussing issues that affect the world, issues that affect business, issues that affect communities, but most importantly, issues around growth. How do you stimulate growth? How do you bring in and ensure that the environment is conducive for the private sector to invest? But also, at the center is actionable commitment that has been stressed here at the B20. That is talk and talk, but at the end of the day, those commitments must be practical and must be immediately be able to be implemented. Just a little bit of insight into that. I am joined by Sanda Ajambo. She's the CEO of the UN Global Compact. Your overall impression, this discussion started yesterday, today's the last day. How are the issues going?
Well, first, thank you for having me. It's great to be here at the B20. There's such a great amount of engagement by businesses, both here at the convention center, but also a large number of side events. I think businesses have really embraced the theme and the underlying, imperative for this conference, which is how do we stimulate inclusive growth for the African continent as well as look towards prosperity. I think the leadership by the South African private sector on the task forces and overall, the contribution into the G20 has been incredible. Lots of strong work about delivery on some of the key things you've said. What does a just energy transition look like for South Africa, for Africa as a whole? Food systems is another critical area, digital transformation. So there's lots of energy and momentum. As you said, I think one of the most critical things is what is the interface between the private sector and government and the enabling environment? Because, without a conducive enabling environment, business will not be able to deliver on these actions, but at the same time, government also needs business to do its best in terms of investing, de-risking, skilling, and creating jobs that drive the economy forward.
Obviously, you need some synergy between business and government. And if you look at some of the, discussions, especially on the government level, you do still find some fragmentation. You find that sometimes government can be inward-looking in their approach, whereas corporates, they are global by their nature. They expand everywhere, and you find that but there isn't enough synergy between the two.
Look, it's been a good discussion all around. We've spoken about, for example, the opportunities to strengthen intra-Africa trade, and there the Africa Continental Free Trade Area plays such an enormous role. We've also talked about the possibility of regionalization. How do smaller economies then come together to create the scale that is needed, both for production as well as investment. I think what has been clear is that there is significant investment needed in infrastructure, in things such as digital payments, because we want to have seamless and frictionless payment across the continent, but also understanding what goods, products, and services can be developed, can be manufactured and produced here on the continent. Where do we add value? But then also not only how Africa trades with itself, but with the world. I think one of the key underlying themes that has come out is how do we do business with Africa, but also how does Africa do business in Africa?
I mean, there's an expression that low-hanging fruit are the ones that should actually be the first one to be considered. What would you say are the low-hanging fruit?
Look, a couple of things, and none of them are easy. I think what is great about the B20 is it brings together the best business minds to solve for this. The first, I think, is how do we create enough jobs and employment opportunities for young people? We know there's high unemployment rates across the continent. We must make sure that our young people are appropriately skilled for the future. That, I think, is a critical one. The second piece is how do we take advantage of the digital infrastructure? The technology must bridge divides, not widen divides. There's so much going on in terms of tech and AI, but at the same time, not all of the people on the continent are connected. So what is the role of digital? First in connecting and then in accelerating. I think those have been two of my most critical areas here.
All right, thank you very much. That's Sanda Ajiambo. She's the CEO of the UN Global Compact on some of the low-hanging fruit and mentioning that digital divide should be a priority. With that, it's back to you in studio, Sakina.
Well, thanks so much, Tshepo Mongoai out in Sandton at the B20 Summit.